They're gonna kill the love of my life.
David!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. It's the 4th of July. It's very exciting. I love holidays. Holy days. All holy days. Okay, so you've reached the Heartbreak Hotel, the only virtual Heartbreak Hotel, and Venus Unplugged. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt. And the Heartbreak Hotel, this experiment, this exploration, is a place where the wounded heart can transform into a wise heart. Part of what I want to give here, joyously, is the language of heartache. And what is that language? And how do we turn it into psyche's logic, or what psyche says? Because we're all grown up enough to start to realize that it's the internal world that is informing the external world. Why does this always happen to a person again and again and again? Is because they don't reflect internally, or they don't know that language, and therefore are, in a sense, a victim. It's like anything that we're ignorant of, we're a victim of. So that's part of what this and it's evolving. It keeps on evolving joyously. So it's Llorraine Neithardt. You can go onto my website, LorraineNeithardt.com, if you want to see, download these episodes. You want a phone session, 212-757-8914. Like on Facebook, Venus Unplugged. And so today we're going to look at the Furies. We've been working with the Royal We, me and all of you, okay? The concept, Toni Wolff's concepts of the four eternal woman, and what she worked on, she was a contemporary of Jung. She was actually... she helped Jung tremendously. She did this work on the opposites of the feminine, of the mother, the Hatara, the Amazon, and the Medial. So the last few weeks we've been working on the Amazon. The Amazon is the woman who by nature, she's just a leader. She's not interested in relating per se. Her focus is not on others. Her focus is on evolving the culture, okay, or being powerful. So this is her natural being. She doesn't try to do this. She's born this way. It's the way she relates to the world. But as in all things in life, there's opposites, and it's the opposites that bring the tension and bring the transformation into life. Like the opposite of love is not hatred. The opposite of love is power. Okay. So today, one of the things I'd like to point out is with the Amazon. Okay, that we have different ways and distinct ways of seeing life. One way of thinking about the masculine and the feminine in women has to do with the ideal that feminine means, essentially, an ability to remain connected with others, to hear as well as be heard, to see as well as be seen, to be aware, and in dialogue with what is present. By the same token, the masculine in women might be defined as the ability to bring her goal-orientated ideas and talents into the world in a manner that challenges her. The world will reward. She likes and understands the rules of the game and how the outer world works. So the Amazon woman of this kind, she has a strong masculine energy internally. Okay, what's called the animus in Jungian terms, and is one that has that sort of goal-orientated outward sense of self, a typical Amazon profile. But if she loses the ability to remain connected to those around her or the principles of basic civil exchange, then she loses something of her essential feminine selfhood. So one of the examples of the Amazon a few episodes back was Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Athena was not born from her mother, she was born from her father's head. So you can go look at your basic mythology and see what that encoded myths and dreams and active imagination are encoded messages from your psyche. You have a genius inside of you that is constantly trying to break through our symptoms, through our tragedies, through our heartbreak. You know, the heartbreak is always the moment. It's the invitation to grow. But we usually miss it because we just get so overwhelmed or terrified or don't really understand. So that's part of what the Heartbreak Hotel is about. It's this place to explore these possibilities of what does this really mean? What does this heartbreak mean? Okay. So these Amazon women, and the opposite of the Amazon woman is the Medea woman. That's the woman who's more of a prophetess. We'll go into that next week. Now, the shadow of the Amazon, the shadow is what we don't know about ourselves. It's our blind spot. But everybody else knows it, including the family cat and dog and parrot. They all go like, oh, I'm out of here. She's coming from her shadow. Now, there's gold in the shadow. And one of the most important things to develop is non-judgment. We can certainly have discernment. We can have opinions if we want, but not to be blinded, because when the Amazon in us comes off as judgmental and opinionated, that's the negative animus, and nobody can take it. And we can't even hear it. We go to say something, we have it on the highest authority, and there is great truth in it, but we say it in a way that toads come out of our mouth. And everybody goes like, oh, man, okay, no. So by being conscious of shadow and light, and shadow and light does not mean good and evil, that's another misconception. By understanding what is motivating us, and then also by who we are and where we operate in the world, we can see what type of relationship we want or what affects us or why some people react one way and not another. The Amazon woman by nature is not identified by the man in society or the woman she's in love with. She's not identified by love, okay? She doesn't want to be taken care of. She wants to do it herself. She wants to affect. She was born with this, the purpose, kind of like Lady Liberty. It's kind of cool that it's the 4th of July, which is, in a sense, the essence of the feminine Amazon who comes and says, no, this needs to be changed, and I will fight consciously, not bitterly, for the feminine principles. So the inferior Amazon is challenged psychologically by refusing to take the body and its limitations as well as its strengths into respectful consideration. So the inferior function or the shadow of the Amazon, she doesn't know she's embodied. She can become addicted. Well, she can become addicted to perfection. So we want self-nature is primarily a mothering task, and the body must be understood as self. Physical embodiment is essential to the goals of the spirit of the true Amazon. So, she'll just ride and destroy herself, and of course we are not going to be effective if we're not dealing and loving the container. So that's where she can fall short, or can make a goal for herself. That's a near-death experience, and it doesn't need to be that way. So the contemporary Amazon may dissociate from her physical and emotional needs. In fact, she may become seriously ill, addicted, or accident-prone. This is the wound, the possible failure to honor one's own nurturance needs. So the Amazon, with all her strength and her power, you see, her wound is vulnerability. That, she can't bear that. Or intimacy needs, unbearable. So that's the wounded part, or that's her opposite. Right? So in that, she needs to be able to recognize that she can move ahead in the world, but she does have vulnerability. And those needs need to be at least respected and honored. I mean, she doesn't have to, but she wouldn't. No. Believe me, Amazons are not usually in group therapy classes. You know, they're not usually doing that. They're out changing the world if they can. Okay. And if you've never tapped into your Amazon, you can. See, that's the really cool thing, is once we're aware that these patterns live inside of us, now it takes some work, but we can connect to it. We can go, you know, actually, this job needs my Amazon. So I have to muster up enough strength to be able to contain her and not let her get out of control also. So the Amazon wants to excel. She wants to be outstanding. To win, she wants to be the thinnest, the wealthiest, the strongest, the fastest. And if her ambitions push her beyond the natural human limitation, she may compromise her body's instinctual integrity. It means she doesn't pay attention. And then one day she's just terribly sick. And Amazons very often get the fatal wound to the breast, which is very interesting because in ancient times the Amazons would cut off one breast so that they could shoot their arrows and be better warriors. That breast was in the way. So it's kind of interesting what's going on in our society these days. Amazon behavior, which is self-mutilating, may take the form of the workaholic syndrome or other addictions where physical self-nurture and need for a satisfying relational life is overlooked and replaced with external goals and temporary consolations. So this is very important in order to maintain, in order to change the culture, in order to have the visions that you have. And we're seeing a lot of, the Amazon, it's like waking up, man. It's like, look what's happening in the world. Women are just, and the Amazon is being provoked in the feminine. And she's not backing down. But we need to do it with wisdom and consciousness and relatedness, not just the Furies, because the Furies just go on and on and on, and nothing changes. All right. It's righteous rage. There's absolutely nothing wrong with righteous rage, but we need to do it through, tempered by Athena. Athena is the goddess of wisdom. She is a virgin goddess, meaning she doesn't have others. Okay, she's of her own nature. So there's no talking trash about Athena, that's for sure. And she is the goddess that all the Athenians and whenever man was going to war, he would consult Athena for her strategy and for her wisdom. So the shadow aspect, okay, of the Athena, or the opposite, you know, or the shadow aspect of the Amazons, okay. There's that fabulous Amazon woman in the Game of Thrones. It's really pretty amazing. She's got to be 7 feet tall. I forget what character she is. And certainly the woman who's the mother of the dragons. She's an image of the Amazon woman. So the Furies. Now the Furies are what they kind of look like, what they feel like. It's a wretched female hags who attack mercilessly and without reprieve. They just go wild. They're mad dogs. Okay. In the world of the Furies, the worst crime a human being can commit is matricide, and the predator must die. Okay? In the world of the Furies, the worst crime a human being can commit is matricide, and the perpetrator must die. Now, we're seeing this getting really activated throughout the globe. It's really fascinating. Now, to the modern mind, they also represent the endangered and the enraged and dethroned voice of the feminine authority within the Godhead, the ancient ones who have been overturned by the evolving patriarch in the voice of Zeus and Apollo, and they supersede all other voices ruling the earth. So this is, these drums have been rolling for a while, but that's when it would get pushed too far, the Furies come. And they want blood. They want you dead. They want action. So, once again, to the modern mind, they also represent the enraged and dethroned voice of the feminine authority within the Godhead, the ancient ones, who have been overturned by the evolving patriarch, which the voice of Zeus and Apollo supersede all the other voices ruling earth. So the Furies are the ancient ones before Zeus and Apollo. So what the Furies want is their just place in the city. Athena is the goddess of the city, not the countries, the city. Okay. They want all their rage against all who violate the feminine to be included in public life and religious life in a respectful manner. They want to be respected for their pain, for their upheaval, for their lack of honor, which new male-dominated democracy has inflicted upon. And their cry is, give us our name. So we're seeing this. We know, it's very interesting. When we're in the presence of an archetype, we know it, we see it. There's a part of us that, is like, holy moly, or we want to faint, or we get really scared, or it's like, uh-oh, this is so much bigger than I could ever imagine. Or we hear the justice, even if it's in the middle of this fury and this insanity, but still this anguish and this cry for justice. That the feminine, the ancient ones, the feminine aspect of the divine, have her voice and our name. That's a very important thing. Give us our name. If we don't know the name of something, if something is oppressing us or opposing us, and we're struggling it, but we just like, well, it feels like this and it feels like that, but we don't have a name, we're never going to be, the name is the open sesame. The name is the description. The name is the introduction, the etiquette of what's going to bring us into life. So that's also part of why we want to work from inside out, the inner world, psyche's logic. This world, this mythical world of dreams and active imagination and mythology. The collective unconscious is based on it. And we're all part of that collective unconscious. So when there's when we're acting out of the inferior Amazon, what one needs to do, we need to name the source of our fury. Because when it's coming from the inferior Amazon, it's not based on her right relatedness to hear and to make changes. It's a personal rage, and people don't always want to listen to that. So we need to name the source of your personal fury that torments you, bring it to consciousness, and work out your interpersonal story. That is to let it become conscious, respected, and given justice in your psyche. And that's also what active imagination does. Active imagination is very simple, but most people have a tremendous resistance to it. Because the truth of the matter is most people are terrified of their gold. They don't want to get better. They want the same old, because they think that's what defines them. But when we want to become conscious, when we want the goals, this is a very easy but disciplined approach, the tension of the opposites, active imagination, to getting a thread on what's really going on, okay? So this task requires more than just acknowledgement of old wounds. It requires understanding of how those wounds still function in your everyday life and what your projections of them may be. When somebody says, all men are blah, or, all a particular race is this, it's like, that's sheer projection. All? Really? All? That's a lot. See, the projection, or people will project onto someone, okay? A projection is, it's a shadow aspect of yourself that we clearly see in another, and you can't stop projection. Projection is part of how psyche operates. So we see something. Now, if we're aware that we have that within ourselves, we're usually a little kinder, or we can feel the projection jump out, okay? Or we can look at it and go like, oh, whoa, did I just say that? Did I just channel my mother? Or did I just channel my enemy? Did I really, really do that? Or, when somebody wants to tell you something, well, number one, somebody wants to tell you secrets, just say no. Don't accept other people's secrets. It's a trick. It's part of their shadow. Here, would you hold my shadow shit where I go off? And then you're left with that. So you can have intimacies, you can share your intimacies, but when somebody is setting you up, you know what you should say and what you shouldn't say. And if somebody has to tell you to hold it a secret, a lot of times it's a setup, man. It's something, that's a big responsibility. That's a big commitment. And then 2 days later, you hear that they told 12 people and you're still holding it inside of you. So, just unless the person really understands what they're, and you need to say to them, if you're asking me to hold this secret, do you know what that means? This is what it means to me. This is what I need to do. All right. But usually it's a setup just so they can feel better and you're left holding the bag. So just be careful with that one. That can be shadow material. So I went off on this. So it requires a respectful and careful reliving of the old trauma and delivering unacknowledged anger in some form to its original target where it belongs. So if one has a mother complex, that does not necessarily mean one's personal mother. It just may be our connection to the feminine, her shadow and her light. Because the one's human mother, personal mother, she can be as wounded, and sometimes we'll pick up her archetypal wound. She doesn't know, okay? But you'll see, that when the wound, whatever the person's wound is, she'll act out one of these 4 essential feminine archetypes. The mother will mother everybody, which gets obnoxious after a while, okay? And why are all men boys? Because she makes them boys. The Hatara is the one who inspires the man. She makes the great man greater, and then he walks off and she doesn't get acknowledged, and then she's furious. Well, help, but don't give the whole enchilada away, all right? The Amazon is here to make change in the world, to bring the culture forward, whatever that might look like. But if she's coming from personal rage, it's just scary and not effective. And the Medial, who we haven't gone through yet, the Medial is the one she's like somewhere between heaven and earth. She's the one who brings in these invisible forces and sees the invisible world much clearer than this side of reality. So today, I think the hard task, if you should so wish to take it on, is the active imagination, which is a resolution of the opposites. So in active imagination, we name the thing that ails us. We find out its opposite, and then we let the 2 of them have a dialogue. not trying to convince one is right and one is wrong, because that's all ego. That doesn't work. They have equal rights. They both have a point of view, and it is astounding. Number one, you're going to get out of your depressions, because what goes on is, we have these opposites that are really trying to bring us into a new level of consciousness, but instead we repress one in order to have the other, and then it takes its revenge. It's really so it drags half of you down into a depression instead of saying, well, okay, all I need to do, and what you can do it with, one way. Actually, Robert Johnson, I think it's in Inner Work, in his book Inner Work. He talks about active imagination, and also in his book Inner Goal, two marvelous books. I love Robert Johnson. He gives very complex teachings in simple forms. And so today, the suggestion is get a sense of Athena, this warrior goddess. I mean, she's not a warrior. She's the wise wisdom. She's the strategist. And, of course, the ultimate wisdom is not to go to war and how to be diplomatic. She's the consummate diplomat. And the Furies, which are old goddesses who've been preempted from their power, and they protect the feminine, and particularly the mother, which is interesting. So you're not allowed to kill the mother. Matricide. Very bad idea, because the Furies will come upon you. And they still live in us very, very strongly in the modern day. We know it when we see it. And this is, so what that would look like. Now, you can get two action figures and do it, or you can say, okay, this stone is Athena, and this stone is the Furies. And just let them start talking to one another. And Athena may say, in order to hold the culture together, we need to have the laws. That this is kind of the reigning law of what's going on now, because what she does is she goes against Zeus and Apollo, and she says, no, the Furies have a right. She brings them back. She allows them to come back into the culture that they're necessary. Now, of course, the gods want to get rid of them because they're really scary. But everybody's got to be afraid of something sometimes, because they're when it's righteous rage, that's different, and we're feeling a lot of that. We're seeing that in throughout the world of what's happening and what's changing, and people are like, basta. Women are just saying, enough, knock it off. Just leave us to our bodies, leave us to our wisdom. Stop with the rape and killing women and all of this. It's changing. But the Furies need to be part of the consciousness, but not the acting out. So the way that we get the power and the resolution is when we have opposing forces, which is active imagination as well. We imagine two different things that are going on, or two voices, and everybody has at least two voices in their head. Not repressing one or the other, just letting them have a conversation. Like we did with the Hura and the Madonna, which would be the mother and the Hatara. Let them live, and they'll become the enlightened Ho. That's what the opposites are about. And it's amazing the energy you're going to get from this, because the opposites are the thing that bring us forward, the aha moment. It's like, wow, amazing, I didn't see that. And so that's what we're going to try to do this time. So Athena is the wise counsel, and the opposites, the Furies, are their righteous rage. And what would their dialogue be? To bring your world forward and to have an insight. So I got to bounce. The English lady just told me I got to get out of here. Okay, so onward and upward, and never underestimate yourself. Okay? And never underestimate what you're capable of. And never, never underestimate Psyche. She rocks. She's amazing. And she's yours. We're all part of it. And once you start realizing that, that's empowerment. We don't need anybody to tell us anything if we can understand our dreams, our active imagination, and our mythos. We become our own religion, and then we can honor everything externally. So till next week we're going to do the Medial, the psychic woman. Bye for now.
They're gonna kill the love of my life. If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal a truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Collide. Now playing.